Top charts at a major Canadian bank, yet my boss said, "You're the problem," after I reported bullying. Managed by gaslighting and emotionally manipulated, I fought to prove my worth only to be humiliated. What happens when the high performer is targeted? TLDR, I was a top performer at my job and they still gaslighted and broke me down. This is everything they do not want you to see. If you are curious or if you have ever gone through something similar, here it is. Title: Gaslighting, Retaliation, and a Culture of Fear. Stay away. Review. Your experience at this bank may vary by branch, but underneath it all lies the same foundation: a toxic culture built on manipulation, fear, and favoritism. You do not grow here, you merely survive. Barely. For context, I consistently ranked among the top performers across my region, even placing in the top 10 in the province. I am not sharing this to boast, but to provide perspective because despite those results, I was never officially recognized. And that was not due to a lack of performance, but because I was not on the right side of the politics. Everything in this review explains what occurs when that is the case. Toxic coaching, manipulative management. Management does not coach, they control. Internal competition is promoted in the most toxic manner, by publicly comparing employees, shaming lower performers, and using other people's success to humiliate rather than uplift. I have witnessed management directly tell one of my coworkers that they were not as good as I was, using my name and performance to shame them for things that were not even their fault. It was humiliating for them and deeply uncomfortable for me. I did not ask to be weaponized like that, but they did it anyway. Coaching is lazy and performative. My manager regularly asked me to explain what I did well, simply because they were not paying attention to begin with. And once I answered, I would be inundated with nitpicky, fabricated criticisms that had nothing to do with my performance. It is gaslighting masquerading as development. And if you dare to speak up or offer suggestions to improve your performance, expect mockery, sarcasm, and outright dismissal. "Oh my God, this again?" Or "Are you serious?" were common reactions. The moment you stop nodding and start thinking for yourself, you are seen as a problem. I once expressed concerns about unfair treatment, and my manager told me to my face that while they would still endorse me for promotion, they would ensure to speak negatively about me to others in a manner that would quietly undermine my chances. They never explicitly said that I would never advance within the company, but it was clear that is exactly what they meant. That is how subtle retaliation works here: technically compliant, strategically sabotaging. Internal mobility depends entirely on your manager's word, and they know precisely how to weaponize it. Moral disengagement, emotional manipulation, dehumanization. If you raise a concern or ask for basic empathy, they will not meet you with understanding. They will treat you like a burden. Management flips the narrative instantly. "Have you thought about how you have made me feel?" I'm not even exaggerating. My boss actually cried in front of me, saying I caused her pain just because I voiced how hurt and unsupported I felt. Real tears. As if I were the one harming her by asking to be treated with respect. It was not just deflection, it was emotional manipulation in its rawest form. And the worst part, it worked. I walked away from that moment questioning myself instead of her, as if I were the problem for speaking up at all. Appreciation is non-existent unless it is vague and directed at the group as a whole. If you are looking for direct acknowledgement of your hard work, forget it. And if you dare to ask for it, you will be told, "I already have," even if you show them proof that they have not. I once told my boss that I needed more appreciation, and they flat out lied, claiming they had been giving it to me the whole time. When I presented them with examples showing they had not, they replied, "You can believe what you want to believe. I know what I did." And what is worse, when I burned out after giving everything, I had to sit there and watch my boss give my praise to someone else. Word for word, everything I ever wanted to hear was handed to another colleague right in front of me. Not because they did not care, but because it was easier to humiliate me with silence. Push back even slightly, and they become condescending or patronizing, as if you are too naive or emotional to understand how things work. There is a deep culture of moral disengagement here. Your humanity is inconvenient, and asking for dignity makes you the problem. At one point, when I brought up that I was being severely bullied, my boss told me I was the one alienating everyone, that I was the problem. They even suggested I seek counseling, as if my reaction to being mistreated were the real issue. The irony: I was already in counseling because of what this workplace was doing to me. When you are bullied, you are on your own. If you happen to work with a bully who publicly humiliates you, even right in front of your boss, you are still on your own. I went through this personally. I was openly mistreated in front of everyone, including management. When I brought it up, I was dismissed. They said things like, "I have bigger things to deal with. Talk to them yourself. Have you even tried speaking to them? Maybe you are overthinking it. Are you sure this is not something you are misinterpreting?" Or maybe you are the problems. They do not investigate, they do not mediate, they deflect and circle around your pain until you begin to question your own reality. You start wondering, what if I am the one in the wrong, even after being blatantly mistreated? That is not just poor management, that is psychological abuse. Mistakes are punished no matter the context. It does not matter how small or rare the mistake is. It does not matter if you take full accountability or explain how you will prevent it from happening again. Even if no real harm was done, management will escalate it to human resources. And the consequences are severe. You will face an unpaid suspension, lose half of your bonus, and become ineligible for any formal recognition, including being named a top performer all over something minor. When you point out how destructive and unnecessary that is for morale, they do not care. Their response, "It is just part of my job." And when they escalate it, they gain full control of the narrative. They will blow the situation out of proportion and you will have no say in it. You are not allowed to correct it. You are not allowed to provide context. Human resources only sees what management tells them, and that version becomes the official record, no matter how misleading or exaggerated it is. They know it damages performance and trust, but they will do it anyway, because it is easier than leading with empathy or common sense. Favoritism runs the show. If you are a bully but flatter the boss, you are untouchable. I worked with someone who treated everyone poorly, including me. No one liked her. Everyone saw her behavior, but because she constantly praised management, she was protected. While the rest of us were written up for the smallest infractions, she skated by completely untouched. This is not a one-off, it is how the system works. The worse you treat people, the better you will do, as long as you keep the boss happy. And yes, there is a fast track to climbing the ladder at this bank. You can move up quickly if you play your cards right. That means either being extremely strategic and politically savvy, or being the most shameless flatterer. Performance alone will not suffice. Integrity will not suffice. Promotions are tied less to merit and more to obedience and ego-stroking. Raises exist, but they are an insult. Yes, you can receive a raise, but only after going far beyond your actual role, taking on responsibilities that are not yours and begging for it. You will be expected to pick up the slack, not because your coworkers are lazy, but because management does not trust them. Since you are the best, you bear the burden of doing everyone else's job. And when that raise finally comes, it is disappointing. The amount never reflects what you sacrificed physically, mentally, and emotionally to get it. You will walk away feeling used, not valued. No support, no trust, no safety net. Training is virtually non-existent. You are expected to figure things out on your own, and asking questions can be used against you later. Some colleagues will even weaponize their help, offering it only to later hold it over your head. Trust is scarce, backstabbing is commonplace, people report each other just to gain favor with management. It is a survival game where everyone is out for themselves. You may find a few decent teammates who do not engage in those games, but even that is a gamble, and with constant turnover, those individuals do not stay long. The only good thing, benefits, and maybe the people. This bank offers good benefits, that is about it. If you are fortunate, you might meet a few genuinely kind, trustworthy colleagues, individuals who help make the day bearable. But they are rare and often driven out or burned out before long. Just when you start to build some trust, they leave and the cycle begins anew. And sometimes even those good connections do not last. Not because of anything you or they did, but because management will actively interfere. If they see you getting too close to someone, they will plant seeds of distrust between you. I had someone I once considered my best friend at work, and somehow, for reasons I still do not fully understand, management decided to pit us against each other. And just like that, another source of support was gone. And if you are smart or shameless, yes, you can rise quickly, but make no mistake, the game is political. Success here is not solely about doing good work because yes, your performance does matter, but it only gets you so far. What truly determines your path is who you impress, how much you conform, and how far you are willing to go to play the game. The reality of workplace dynamics. To survive here, you essentially have to become a yes man. You will encounter people so emotionally distant that it is as if they have shut off their humanity. You will meet bullies who are so vile that you question how they are even employable. And you will encounter coworkers who act friendly until you are targeted by the boss, speak out, or become a victim of bullying or gossip. Then they turn their backs, they become silent, you become invisible. And yet a rare few stand out, the kind souls who show you real empathy amidst the chaos. The ones who treat you like a person when the system refuses to. You will remember them long after you leave, and that says a lot. Final words. If you want to be gaslighted for trying to grow, punished for not being perfect, shamed for being human, and forced to watch bullies get promoted while you are written up over the most minor issues, this place is for you. Otherwise, runs. TLDR, I worked for a major Canadian bank where I was one of the top performers in the province and still experienced gaslighting, emotional breakdown, and subtle sabotage from management. Bullies were protected, I was blamed for my own mistreatment, and even told to seek counseling when I was already in it because of the job. I burned out completely and finally had enough. This is the story I could not keep quiet anymore. Thank you for allowing me to get this off my chest. Honestly, even if no one sees this, I feel a little lighter. Story 2. My boyfriend of a year dumped me because I don't want kids and he does. You'll resent them, he said. I begged. I'd be happy in a shoe covered in goo if it's with you. But he wouldn't compromise, and now I'm left wondering, was breaking up the right call? I 29 female and my boyfriend 38 male have been dating for about a year now. From the very first time we spoke, it was evident that he wanted children while I did not. It was truly unfortunate as we connected instantly and everything seemed perfect between us. Our chemistry was strikingly different from my other dates and he expressed a similar feeling. When we had an earnest conversation about it a few days after meeting, we nearly decided to end things. We considered cutting it off to avoid becoming too attached and to minimize potential damage given our opposing views on having children. However, neither of us wanted to part ways. We agreed to address the issue when the time came, and whenever that moment arrived, we would work through it together. Fast forward a year and we have experienced many wonderful moments along with some difficult ones, but overall it has been a nice, happy, and healthy relationship, a notably different experience for me personally. Naturally, I am quite ecstatic to have finally found someone who is not indecisive and who genuinely puts in effort, among other positive traits. However, no couple is perfect, so I took the initiative to discuss some concerns I had regarding our interactions. These concerns were fairly typical, yet I always felt that we struggled with communication. I often found it challenging to express my thoughts without him becoming defensive or leaving my place. We were making progress, so I felt a little hopeful during this conversation. I brought up a particular issue, and although we did not make significant advancements in that discussion, he then asked me something like, "Okay, let's address this too, do you even want children?" I was completely taken aback by this question. Here I was, attempting to voice my concerns to improve our relationship, and suddenly my entire perspective felt turned upside down. I tried to formulate a response, but honestly, the entire conversation is such a blur to me. I just remember him mentioning that he was telling himself to wait a year to see if I changed my mind about having children. It is important to clarify that I was never entirely opposed to having kids. I simply had numerous worries about parenthood. When I was younger, I always dreamed of being a stay-at-home mother, caring for my family while still retaining the skills to return to the workforce anytime. I wanted my children to excel at everything and to have a much better life than I did, benefiting from opportunities I never had. However, as I grew older, I realized how expensive everything is, how little sleep parents typically receive each night, the physical toll on the body, and it frightened me. I kept thinking, if I can barely sustain myself, in terms of effort and finances, how am I going to care for a child who is entirely dependent on another human for survival? I am confident my partner would be an incredible father, but even with just the two of us, that responsibility feels overwhelming. Neither of us grew up with wealth, but his family appeared to be more functional than mine. There seemed to be a lot of love and happiness in his household, which I genuinely appreciate for him. In contrast, my family is incredibly strain-filled with animosity, financial instability, toxicity, and various forms of betrayal. It has been so difficult that I literally moved across the country with a random boy I met, hoping for a different life away from all that negativity. Therefore, my family dynamics are very different from his. I witnessed my parents struggle and I did not want that life for myself. In fact, my sister 40 recently had a baby and has been struggling. She earns a decent income, yet she is the sole breadwinner and her husband is essentially a deadbeat. Thus, it falls on her to manage everything. Thankfully, she has some close family friends nearby who help occasionally, but she is truly struggling. That has been my observation. Everyone with children seems to be having an incredibly tough time, and I do not want that for myself. I expressed to my partner that if he wishes to have children, we need to be adequately prepared. I realize I may come across as particular and high maintenance, but I wanted a nanny to assist with childcare. I do not have family or anyone on which to rely here. They say it takes a village to raise a child, but it is just me and my partner who works excessively, so it essentially falls to me alone. Returning to the conversation about children, I reiterated all these points while also clarifying that I am not against having kids. I merely want to ensure we have the resources necessary to support them. I do not want to have children and do a poor job of raising them. I want to guarantee they are in good schools, can see a doctor whenever needed, can engage in sports and hobbies, and essentially make the most out of their lives. All of this requires finances. I also find myself thinking about college for my future children, and that is daunting. I was fortunate. My parents were so poor that I did not have to take out significant student loans, and I managed to pay them off a few years after graduating. My partner attended graduate school, so he was not as fortunate. Seeing his loan responsibilities and considering my children's future gives me a headache. He claims he does not want to pay for their college and believes they must work for it. But because we earn too much, it is our responsibility to help them since they cannot receive financial aid. I do not want my kids to graduate from college struggling to find jobs, burdened with student debt, and missing out on critical years for wealth building and benefiting from compound interest. I do not want my children to fall behind in life because they are paying $600 a month in student loans rather than contributing to a retirement account or investment portfolio. I want to set them up for success. My parents could not assist me, and I refuse to let my children endure similar struggles. I believe these feelings are entirely logical. However, his response was that he knows people who earn much less than we do and have 2 children and are doing just fine. Yet I do not want to simply manage, I want the best for my family. Ultimately, the conversation ended in a breakup. He believed we had fundamentally different opinions regarding children. He wholeheartedly wants children and would do anything for them, possibly even kissing their diapers to express his love. He thinks watching them grow would be very fulfilling. This perspective is sweet, and I agree to some extent. However, he perceives me as someone who would resent the children, him, or even both for ruining my life. He believes I would dislike the experience of caring for them, changing diapers, sleepless nights, etc., and that I would not find happiness in life. To some degree, I think he might be accurate. Yet I am 29, I feel I have many more years to enjoy life before settling down with a family. I want to travel to many places and experience new things. When I have accomplished that, I envision settling down, raising my children, and sharing with them all the incredible experiences I've had. My partner's concern is that what if I never want to settle down? While this is a valid question without a clear answer, I believed we would find a way to ensure both of our happiness when that time arrived. We love each other profoundly, so I thought this would be just another challenge for us to tackle together. However, he was adamant that it would be best to end things due to our fundamentally different views on children. He stated that it is illogical to base our relationship on the possibility of my changing my opinion about having children, which surprised me. Isn't the foundation of a relationship based on emotions and feelings? I love this man and he loves me. Surely everything else will work itself out, right? Perhaps that is just the naivety speaking. I mentioned that there is a chance I might change my mind, and if I do, then he would have everything he ever wanted, me and a family. Isn't that worth taking a risk for instead of being 100% certain of not having it if we break up? He responded that the probability of my changing my stance is practically zero, making breaking up the more logical choice. A few days passed, and I found myself practically begging him to give our relationship a chance, assuring him that everything would work out. At one point, I even completely caved and told him I would give him the kids he desires, but he remained unconvinced. It transformed from a matter of having children into an issue of me sacrificing my desires for him. He does not want me to forego my wish for a child-free life merely for his desire to have a family. He understands that this is not what I want and that I would not find happiness in it. I wanted to shake this man. I am happy with him. I would be content living in a shoe even if it were covered in goo. I would be happy, and so regardless of our circumstances, I would find joy because he is by my side. Perhaps this sounds immature, but I choose to believe it. He insists he does not want me to sacrifice anything for him, but I frequently make sacrifices for the people I care about. My greatest joy in life comes from taking care of those I love and making them happy. If I must relinquish my wish for a child-free life to make him happy, I would do it. I would find new sources of happiness within parenthood. But he was unwilling to accept that. He did not want to be selfish and allow me to make that sacrifice. Therefore, we are now broken up. I believe it is a significant mistake and I do not know what to do. At this point, I would feel much happier if I discovered he had cheated on me or something similar. At least this would provide me with an explanation that makes it seem like there was nothing I could do, along with a valid reason for the breakup. Because honestly, I cannot comprehend the reasoning behind this situation. In summary, my boyfriend ended our relationship because I did not want children while he did, despite our agreement to find a solution that would work for both of us when the time came, whether through adoption, surrogacy, or other options. I ultimately caved and stated I would provide him with the children he wants, but he did not want me to sacrifice my desires for his. We remain broken up, and I feel he is making a grave mistake. Thank you to anyone who takes the time to read this. Writing this has provided me with a significant release of stress. Story 3. After 11 years, my girlfriend returns from a Europe trip acting distant, and I find her liking breakup reels. I'm not cheating, she said, but her texts have turned icy. Is she quietly reevaluating our relationship? I need to address this without blame. How? Hey everyone, I am seeking some external perspective on something that has been weighing heavily on my mind. This will be somewhat lengthy, but I want to present the entire story. I utilized ChatGPT to refine the grammar and flow, so I apologize if it sounds overly artificial. Background. My girlfriend, 29 years old, female, and I, 29 years old, male, have been together for over 11 years. We began dating in school and have essentially grown up alongside each other. Back then, I entered into full-time employment while she pursued her degree. I supported her through those years, both emotionally and financially, and even paid off the remainder of her student loan after her graduation so she could embark on her career without any stress. We do not live in the United States, by the way, so this is feasible. Recently, we successfully obtained a government-subsidized apartment together after numerous unsuccessful applications, a significant achievement for couples establishing themselves where I am from. I believed our relationship was solid. Currently, I am in a transitional phase. I left my previous job to pursue a part-time degree in information technology and spent some time trying to make trading work full-time. It did not work out, and now I am preparing to search for full-time employment in the IT field soon. This has been a vulnerable time for me, lower income, uncertainty, and considerable pressure to keep progressing in life. Her personality is not one that readily picks up on subtle emotional signals. She often misses or overlooks things that hold deeper significance unless they are clearly pointed out. This makes it difficult for her to recognize when I am struggling or when something has changed between us. While I was earning money, I covered 90% of our dates and most of our travels abroad, especially when she was still studying. It felt natural since I was working and she was not. Now I am the one studying and she is working. Instead of stepping up, she frequently reminds me that I do not have a full-time job and expresses how it makes her feel insecure about our future. Many of our recent arguments have revolved around this issue. I am simply in a transitional period, but it seems that all she notices is my reduced disposable income. Our dates have become less extravagant, and I am giving fewer gifts. She contrasts me with her friends' partners. You know, the typical comparisons like so-and-so's boyfriend or husband buys this or that. And it makes me feel as though I am being measured against individuals in a completely different stage of life. The truth is, I am not broke. I possess savings that are above average for someone my age in my country. I still pay for the majority of our meals and we share the costs of our recent trips. I never expected her to take over completely, but it hurts when she makes me feel as if she is settling for me and that she could find someone better who can provide the ideal lifestyle she desires. The Europe trip. She recently went on a 2-week trip to Europe, 1 week for work and 1 week for leisure with a female friend. During the work week, she spent a considerable amount of time with a male colleague who had temporarily transferred to the same European Union office. They socialized almost every day, he even visited her hotel for breakfast, they had dinner after work, and they went to cafes on the weekend. I tried to be understanding. He did not know anyone else there and she was his only teammate from back home. They were close by default. However, I could not shake the feeling that, during that period, he received more of her emotional attention than I did. I did not want to express any insecurity, so I kept my feelings inside. But then something else occurred and it hit harder. The Instagram Reels. I was mindlessly scrolling through my social media when I stumbled upon a series of reels she had liked on Instagram, all focused on leaving long-term relationships, finding the courage to walk away, growing apart emotionally. This completely devastated me. I felt blindsided. We have never discussed breaking up. She was still texting and calling me as if everything was fine. But seeing what she had been engaging with made me feel as though she was processing emotions she had not shared with me. To make matters worse, this happened around the same time she began responding to me less frequently. Her texts became short, cold, and delayed. When I asked gently, she said, "It is too cold to use my phone outdoors." I wanted to believe that, but I noticed her online on Telegram, actively chatting with others while leaving me waiting. That excuse did not hold up, and it left me feeling even more sidelined. That was the moment I emotionally distanced myself. I stopped feeling secure. I withdrew. Shorter replies, no emojis, just emotionally numb. I did not confront her, I simply quietly shut down. How she responded. In the second week of her trip, I believe she sensed the change. She began sending more photos, calling and video calling perhaps to restore the connection. But it felt like there was no emotional intimacy. It seemed she noticed something was amiss and was attempting to fix it without truly understanding the reason. After she came back, I dropped by her place briefly to deliver something she needed. We conversed for about 20 minutes and she gave me a small souvenir. She acted as if everything was fine. However, emotionally, it felt distant, like I was conversing with someone who had already checked out, but did not want to vocalize it. We have shared an inside joke for years. I always refer to myself as her camel on trips because I carry all the bags while she strolls with a tiny purse. She used to enjoy this joke, even sharing it with her friends. It was our thing. While discussing her journey, I noticed she appeared tired and hunched over. She explained that she had to carry her luggage and assist her frail friend too. I joked. Ah, so during this trip you became your own camel. She did not laugh. No smile. Just a silence. That moment hit me hard. Physical distance. When I gently touched her arm and abdomen, something I usually do when she jokes about gaining weight, she pushed my hand away. Not aggressively, but not playfully either. She normally does this when she is feeling upset and expects me to make amends. However, this time I did not. It felt like a boundary had been established, like something between us had changed. She did not hug me or kiss me goodbye. She leaned slightly on my arm in the elevator, but it felt more like a habit than intimacy. Typically, she initiates these small moments of affection, but this time there was nothing. Where I am now, I do not believe she is cheating. But I do think someone else likely, that colleague has occupied some of the emotional space I used to hold. Since she is not very emotionally aware, I doubt she realizes that she is the one who has created the distance. She probably thinks I am simply being moody or emotional again. I have not mentioned the reels to her. I have not brought up how I felt during her trip. I have merely been mirroring her energy-less warmth, less effort, and just quietly observing. Part of me wishes to check her Telegram if the opportunity arises, not to instigate drama, but because I genuinely want to understand who was worth responding to when I was not. I know she uses WhatsApp for work and likely communicates with that colleague there. I also wonder, does she genuinely believe she has settled for me? Is she subtly evaluating better options while I am in a low period? The plan? She will be away this weekend for a family event. Once she returns, I intend to have an honest discussion, not to blame her but to inquire. Why I am posting? I truly do not know how to feel anymore. Am I being overly sensitive because I am experiencing a vulnerable phase? Or am I recognizing the truth in her actions and simply afraid to admit it? Lastly, how do I express my concerns regarding emotional distance and signs of a potential breakup following my girlfriend's trip without making her feel attacked or cornered? I would greatly appreciate any honest thoughts or advice. Thank you for taking the time to read all of this. TLDR, my girlfriend of 11 years recently went on a trip to Europe. While there, she emotionally distanced herself and spent significant time with a male colleague. Around the same time, I discovered that she had liked reels about breakups and was responding to me less despite being active online. Since her return, she has been acting as if everything is fine but something feels off. I have not addressed it yet, but I plan to do so. I am just uncertain how to approach it without escalating the situation or making her defensive. Story 4. Dismissed at 11 for speaking out about my assault, I was told I was just a jealous, lying kid. As I battled depression, therapists fell asleep and left me on my own. Years later, I question if anyone truly cares. How many have felt this void of connection? I was dismissed when I confided about being sexually assaulted. Certainly, I was a jealous, dishonest 11-year-old. I was dismissed when I attempted to escape an abusive household. Surely, I could not make choices for myself, and a teenager can only be the source of problems. I was dismissed when I left home. Of course, I must not have realized what that truly meant. I was dismissed when I displayed signs of depression. Certainly, it only indicated that I was finally revealing my true self. It was simply who I was. I was dismissed by a therapist. He fell asleep every time. I was dismissed by another therapist. You see, a therapist cannot do anything for you but show you the exit if you begin to have suicidal thoughts. I was dismissed when I opened up about my struggles. Surely, a platitude without follow-up is sufficient to be considered a friend. I was dismissed when I expressed my feelings. Obviously, I must not understand what some people experience. People truly suffer, you know. I was dismissed when I shared my situation. Why do you care? Why do you worry? I was dismissed through the obvious. You see, some individuals will tell you they genuinely cared about you when they saw you in distress, but apparently they had to wait for you to feel better to let you know. I was dismissed by another therapist. Certainly, I must not have tried hard enough. Do I even have discipline? Well, at least I was acknowledged for being indeed overweight. I was dismissed by a psychiatrist. The appointment never occurred. I was dismissed when I sought professional help. The reality is that it took 8 months to find someone who was not even a suitable match, all while I was contending with suicidal thoughts. I was dismissed when I required time to process being dismissed. You see, I was creating a negative atmosphere. I was dismissed when I questioned things. Who do I think I am? What do I know? I was dismissed when I expressed concern. You see, I must have had too much time during my unemployment to think something was wrong. I was dismissed when I supported my concern with observations. Are you on your period? I was dismissed when I sought connection. You do not matter because I have broken up. I was dismissed when I offered help. Surely no one ever truly needs assistance. I was dismissed when I needed help to accomplish something. Just do it. I have been dismissed as we all have been in some manner. I was fortunate to experience this very early in relationships that should have been safe, when I still could not fully comprehend what it meant. It certainly better equipped me for what I was about to endure. However, that does not justify any of it, not with anyone. Reaching out for professional help is courageous. It often feels like a last resort, yet those places are not always safe. Personally, I have encountered only one truly safe therapeutic space among 5. This leads to a 20% chance of finding a therapist who would genuinely be helpful. This is astonishingly low. A therapist being unhelpful, if not outright harmful, is not a neutral occurrence. In a state of despair, every interaction has profound effects. Professionals come with an authority that is difficult to oppose, especially when we are fragile, when effort seems futile, and when our thoughts already require energy to manage. I want to believe that I have been unlucky. It would mean things are better for others, but it seems to be a prevalent tendency for me to genuinely believe in that. Mental health issues are increasing. Perhaps you have been fortunate, maybe you have looked down on those facing such challenges, but statistically, your children, your nieces and nephews are next. This is concerning. I am sharing these snippets of my history because while I was dismissed, you are not. You are not dismissed from playing your part in our collective responsibility to cultivate a compassionate society. It starts at our level. It begins with how we interpret what we observe. How do we label individuals who do not meet our expectations? How do we react when someone behaves differently than they used to? How do we treat someone who is struggling? Do we ever pressure individuals to obtain a sense of satisfaction? It starts in the interaction between one another, whether with colleagues, relatives, friends, strangers, or lovers. What do we contribute to that dynamic? How do we nurture it? Is it shared equitably? What can enter it, what cannot, and why? It starts with ourselves. Are we accepting of ourselves and our imperfections? Are we prioritizing our comfort? Are we allowing for connection, vulnerability? What and who feels safe? What and who does not? Why? When are we defensive? When are we betraying ourselves? How is fear guiding our actions? What are we blocking? What are we fleeing from? Are we observing our behaviors and those of others? Are we aware of our influence on others, and are we taking accountability and responsibility for that? Are we truly listening? Are we engaging or merely hoping? Are we trying, questioning, learning, and improving? Or are we dismissing, resigning, and avoiding? Helping others and receiving help are equally challenging. Our efforts may not always matter. They may go unnoticed or become deflected and dismissed. However, I believe our collective strength lies in persevering, in refusing to give up, in nurturing our light and allowing it to grow. With every smile, every meaningful eye contact, every small act of kindness, and through every way we can show that we remember something significant about someone because we listened, that we recognize what someone has done and contributed, that we understand a situation someone is experiencing and how it feels. It lies in every question that replaces judgment, lies in acceptance instead of criticism. We are all flawed and we are never going to love everyone. But we do not need to make ourselves feel better at anyone else's expense. We do not need to bond through judgment or by fostering a sense of superiority over others. We can instead begin to bond because we create space for one another, because we make each other feel seen, valued, and accepted. I am not advocating for a naive and impossible vision of interpersonal relationships. However, it does not take much to alter a dynamic. It could be inviting someone to join a group, calling out bullying behavior, sitting with someone who is isolated, supporting those who speak up, or showing understanding for those who are struggling. It could be a simple thank you, a compliment, or an are you okay? What if we began to genuinely care for one another and show up? As James Baldwin said, everyone you are looking at is also you, but perhaps you first need to see yourself fully. In my 34 years, I have dealt with mental health issues extensively. I have gone in and out of darkness multiple times and have reached depths many will fortunately never encounter. Sometimes life hangs by little more than a feeling of guilt, a memory of kindness, or new music waiting to be discovered. We are fragile, and our battles often remain unseen. The system is failing us, and we are failing one another. This is not to say that professional help is unnecessary or unhelpful. It is indeed vital. Yet if my experience is commonplace, it is easy to feel otherwise and to give up. That is why we must support one another. Consider donating to a mental health charity and hugging your loved ones a little tighter. Let us strive to do better.